Some people are born seeing the world with deeper eyes. From an early age, they carry an uncommon sensitivity, as if they perceive life through more profound lenses. Others, however, seem to have been shaped by life itself. They were light-hearted children, sociable, cheerful, until something changed. And that change wasn't just external, it was internal, almost invisible to others. Melancholy doesn't arrive with a warning, but once it settles in, it transforms everything. Many people find themselves wondering, when did things start to go wrong? Understanding the roots of melancholy isn't just about finding answers. It's about finding yourself.
There's a crucial difference between those who are born melancholic and those who become melancholic over time. The born melancholic carries this as part of their identity: refined sensitivity, constant introspection, and a longing for emotional depth. Those shaped by trauma, however, undergo a forced transformation. Something broke, something silenced them, a loss, betrayal, a sudden change, rejection. Whatever the cause, it left invisible marks. What was once lightness becomes weight. What was once spontaneity becomes self-censorship. And inside, a quiet transformation takes place.
People who become melancholic after trauma often notice strong contrasts between past and present. They remember a peaceful mind, light sleep, effortless laughter. Now, the mind races constantly, and the pillow becomes a battlefield. Anxiety replaces spontaneity. Even small comments or glances can become emotional triggers. And while they may not know exactly when or how it happened, they know something broke. The awareness doesn't bring clarity. It brings a heavy, unsettling question. Will I ever feel like myself again?
One of the hardest parts for someone who has become melancholic is remembering how different life used to be. It's not just nostalgia, it's the pain of contrast. The easy smile, the joy of connection, the energy to live freely all seem lost in a distant past. Comparing oneself to the person they used to be becomes painful, especially when looking in the mirror and feeling unrecognizable. It's like living in a familiar body with a soul that no longer fits. And the silent question grows, how could something so essential be lost?
Unlike those wounded into melancholy, those born with it find meaning in their nature. Solitude is not punishment, but a refuge. Sensitivity is not a weakness, but a doorway to empathy and depth. Even their chaotic thoughts feed creativity and deep perception. They often feel aligned with themselves, despite their emotional intensity. This melancholy wasn't acquired, it was gradually discovered, like a signature of the soul. And when embraced, it can bring balance. But what happens when melancholy isn't part of who you truly are?
For some, melancholy is not part of their nature. It's a response to pain. It appears as a distortion, a defense mechanism. It speaks with the voice of anxiety, self-criticism, even despair. It replaces joy with numbness. And over time, that wounded version starts to feel permanent. Trauma begins to masquerade as identity.
The healing process requires a difficult but essential task: to separate what is truly yours from what was imposed by pain. Only then can the path back to the self begin.
Reconnecting with yourself doesn't happen overnight, but it is possible. The first step is recognizing that melancholy might be a shelter built by unresolved pain. Therapy, self-awareness, emotional support, and mindfulness are tools that help rebuild from the inside. It's not about returning to who you were before. It's about integrating what was lived and becoming someone whole again. Pain doesn't need to be denied, but it also doesn't need to define who you are. There is a truer self waiting to emerge. Melancholy, whether inherent or acquired, is not a curse. When understood, it can become a strength, a source of insight, empathy, and authenticity. But this transformation takes courage, the courage to listen inwardly, to reflect honestly, to rebuild consciously. If you know someone who's struggling silently, share this video. It might be the beginning of their healing journey. And if you saw yourself in these words, remember, your pain is real, but it is not the end. Like, share, and subscribe, because your sensitivity matters, and you're not alone.